afternoon, everybody. First and foremost, thank you to everybody who took the time to log into today's virtual business property statement Q&A session hosted by the Office of Los Angeles County Assessor Jeffrey Prang. My name is Robert Duarte, and I'm the Chief of Communications and Public Affairs for the Office of the Assessor. As the business property statement deadline approaches, we have gathered our subject matter experts from our office to answer your questions on how to prepare and file your statement. Please note that the information provided today during the Q&A session by our subject matter experts are intended to provide general information and summary of how to prepare and submit a business property statement. The information provided is not intended to be a legal interpretation of official guidance, but rather is a presentation of summary of information. We encourage you to consult with your financial and legal advisors on your personal situation. Please note that this Q&A session is being recorded and will be posted on the Los Angeles County Office of the Assessor website, YouTube, and social media. If you have not already, please take the time to watch our How to Prepare a Business Property Statement Form 571L video, which can be found on our website under Webinars and Presentations or by visiting assessor.lacounty.gov/videos. These videos provide a brief overview of the business property wheelhouse and a step-by-step directions on how to correctly complete and file your statement, and is available in English, Spanish, Mandarin, Persian, and Armenian. Today, our subject matter experts are able to assist you in all those languages. Before transitioning to today's Q&A session, I would be remiss if I didn't introduce our Los Angeles County Assessor, Jeffrey Prang. Assessor Prang leads the nation's largest assessment agency with 1,300 employees that provides the foundation for our property tax system that generates $17 billion annually. Assessor Prang is a State Board of Equalization licensed appraiser, an executive committee member of the California Assessors Association, and an active member of the International Association of Assessing Officers and Society of Auditor Appraisers. I would like to play a short video from him. So give me one quick second.
Thank you, Robert, and thank you all for joining us this morning. We hope that this program is going to be informative and useful. It's one of the many value-added programs we've tried to introduce in our department to help property owners navigate this sometimes very arcane and complex world of property tax and property assessment administration. And I know that the 571L business property statement can be confusing and complicated. So hopefully we can detangle that for you today and help make it a little bit easier. You know, every year, business property statements are mailed by our office to most commercial and industrial property owners. Any business that has personal property, fixtures and equipment that's valued at $100,000 or more is required to file the business property statement with our office by April 1st. The deadline, as you know, is just a few days away. And it's critical that you submit the statement promptly, because if you don't, a 10% penalty will be applied if that statement is received after May 7th. So generally, businesses with personal property and fixtures that are valued at less than $100,000 are not required to file a business property statement annually unless you get a request from our office. Instead, a value was established based on your initial business property statement filing or by an on-site appraisal. That value may be adjusted by subsequent annual on-site appraisals. As you prepare to file your business property statement, or what, as we call the 571L, please remember that we are a resource for you. We're happy to answer questions, as we will do today. We've got a number of experts throughout our office who know virtually every question that answers to every question you can probably come up with, and hopefully you'll be able to begin filing your statement. Appreciate you logging in today, and hopefully this will help answer your question. But we are here to answer any of your questions dealing with property tax administration and property valuation and assessment. So I'll turn the floor back over to our team, who will walk you through the next part of the program.
All right. So that was that. And As mentioned, today's Q&A session is to help you prepare your business personal property statement, also known as the 571L. In Spanish, either Brenda or Yuridia, can you really quickly explain the disclaimer and the instructions for our breakout rooms? We'll go ahead and open those up.
Descarga de responsabilidad. Esta presentación está creada con la intención de ayudar y aclarar algunas preguntas e inquietudes en nuestra comunidad de habla hispana. El formulario oficial está en inglés y está disponible en nuestra página web. Cualquier discrepancia o diferencia creada en la traducción no va a tener ningún efecto legal para fines de cumplimiento o ejecución. Si tiene una pregunta relacionada con la precisión, consulte la versión en inglés. Espero que esta presentación le sirva como una herramienta y así poder servir mejor a nuestro condado. Esta sesión de preguntas se está grabando. A continuación, podemos asistirlo en grupos pequeños, breakout rooms, en español e inglés. Si tiene preguntas, por favor, levante la mano o utilice el chat para poder asistirlo. Gracias.
Thank you, Brenda. In Mandarin, Calvin?
你好，我的名字是 Calvin。那今天我们这个介绍中包含的任何资讯与内容，仅用于教育性的意图，不应被解释为法律的建议或解释。每一个财产拥有者如果对自己的具体情况有疑问，应咨询他们的律师、注册会计师或其他税务专业人士。我们这个回答环节中是正在录影，那这个的录影呢会发布在我们的网站，洛杉矶县评估员办公室的网站、YouTube 跟其他的社交媒体上面。那我们等会儿如果你需要中文，请麻烦举手让我们知道，或者写在旁边的 chat。那我们会有中文的人回答你的问题。那如果你也可以看我们的那个视频，中文的视频，那在我们的官方网站可以看得到。谢谢。
Thank you, Calvin. And again, just the instructions that we're going to break out into different language rooms, but we'll stay in this one for English. In Armenian, we're going to offer an Armenian room. So can someone please translate the instructions in Armenian real quickly?
Yes, բարև ձեզ։ Այսօր մեր մասնագետների կողմից հարց ու պատասխանի նիստի ընթացքում տրված տեղեկությունը նպատակ ունի տրամադրել ընդհանուր տեղեկություն այն մասին, թե ինչպես պատրաստել եւ ներկայացնել գործարար անձնական գույքի հայտարարագիր։ Ներկայացված տեղեկությունը նախատեսված է տեղեկատվություն ամփոփ ներկայացում։ Առաջարկում ենք խորհրդակցել ձեր ֆինանսական եւ իրավաբանական խորհրդատուների հետ ձեր անձնական իրավիճակի վերաբերյալ։ Նշեմ, որ այս հարց ու պատասխանի նիստը ձայնագրվում է եւ տեղադրվելու է մեր կայքում, ինչպես նաեւ YouTube-ի եւ սոցիալական մեդիայի կայքերում։ Այժմ մենք պատրաստում ենք գնալ հայախոս անհատներին նվիրված virtual սենյակ։ Եթե որևէ հարց ունեք, խնդրում ենք բարձրացրեք ձեր ձեռքը եւ մեզանից մեկը կօգնի ձեր հարցերին պատասխանել։ Շատ շնորհակալություն։
Thank you. And our last language, Persian, really quickly, Eleanush.
روز بخیر. هدف ما در این وبینار این است که خلاصه و راهنمایی کلی در رابطه با چگونگی تکمیل و ارسال پستی یا الکترونیکی اظهارنامه مالیاتی اموال شخصی تجاری فرم 571 را برای شما ارائه بکنیم. لازم به تذکر است که اطلاعات ارائه شده در این وبینار فقط به منظور راهنمایی کلی عموم می باشد و هیچ گونه جنبه حقوقی ندارد. به شما توصیه می شود که از اطلاعات حرفه‌ای حسابداران و مشاوران امور مالیاتی خود برای کسب اطلاعات بیشتر استفاده کنید. این جلسه پرسش و پاسخ ضبط خواهد شد و در وبسایت، یوتیوب و وسایل ارتباط جمعی LA County Assessor قرار خواهد گرفت و شما میتونید بعداً به اون مراجعه کنید. اگر شما میخواهید سوال و جواب خودتون رو به فارسی مطرح کنید، لطفاً دست خود را بالا ببرید و ما به شما کمک میکنیم. متشکرم.
Thank you. So now I'll go ahead and open the breakout rooms. You should see at the bottom of your screen, there are breakout rooms for Spanish. If you need Spanish, you can go over to that Spanish room. If you need any other language, Mandarin, you can go over there. Armenian, you can go over there. Persian, you can go over there. All of those rooms also have English. We do have an English room as well, but we'll go ahead and kind of keep this room as the English one. If I can have Frank, can you go to the English room, please?
Yes.
Terry will stay in this main room. We received, so again, now in English, if you do have any questions, please put them in the chat or raise your hand. We received already one question that I got in the chat from Lydia. My client has a trucking business. His company owns trucks. I was told by someone at the county assessor that equipment like trucks that are registered by the DMV are not included in the business statement. Can you please confirm that? So Terry, could you respond?
Certainly, yes. Registered vehicles through the DMV, they do pay a vehicle license fee that is in lieu of the personal property tax. So that is correct. There are certain types of vehicles like your construction mobile equipment that maybe they have special plates and those would be accessible, but if they're licensed through the DMV and you're paying that vehicle license fee, then that is in lieu of the personal property tax. So that is correct.
Lydia, did that answer your question, or would you like?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Again, this is an open Q&A. You can ask any question regarding your business statement or anything to do with property taxes. We'll go ahead and open it up. Feel free to raise your hand, type it in the chat, or unmute yourself. I received a question in the chat right here from Liz Lundy. Liz, she asks, due to the pandemic, we sadly had to close our business last year. How do we close out our business property tax? No fixtures were sold, just went with the shutdown and will be claimed, claimed so on our 2021 tax return. We also have no leases of any equipment. We have been shut down since March of 2020. Thank you for the help. Liz Lundy. Alanush or Terry?
I'm so sorry. I was paying attention to the other rooms. I didn't hear the question.
Oh, okay. Terry?
Yes. So since your business was closed prior to the lien date, January 1st, 2022, if you did receive a statement from us, please return that statement and just write on the form that your business has closed as of the particular date. If you received bills from previous years, you can always contact our office with the contact form and give us some documentation to show that your office actually closed down, maybe a letter from your landlord, maybe a closing utility statement, something like that, to show that the prior years were also, you weren't there in the prior years. And that way we can investigate and maybe ask you additional questions and possibly cancel the 2021 tax bill. But for 2022, you should return that statement to us and indicate that your business was closed, and please indicate the date that it was closed.
Liz Lundy, I hope that clarifies your question. If you'd like, you can unmute yourself and ask more, or you can type in the chat if you like.
That's perfect. Thank you so much. It was just this last year that we're counting as closed, so that's perfect. Thank you for the help. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Liz. Edward Gomez, it looks like you have your hand up. Feel free to unmute yourself.
Hi, and thank you for putting this on. The form is a little intimidating. I'd like to ask, so I'm an owner in a powder coating company where we receive customers' parts. We use a powder coating process where we apply powder, put the parts in the oven, and then they're painted. If you can give us an example of what type of items, I know I read fixtures, but what type of items do I need to put on this list?
Edward, if I understand, you're saying you're a coding company and you're asking what kind of assets would be fixtures. So if you have any kind of special process intended fixture like plumbing, or if you are taking anything out and disposing somehow using any special kind of process, that would be also fixtures. If you are using high voltage electricity for, I don't know if you have a special kind of heating process that you need special kind of electrical connections there, or high voltage electricity for the process, that would be fixture. Also, we have two, Terry here, my colleague, is showing you the examples of the fixtures, which is on the instruction of the business property statement. Just like here, any pits used to clarify, skimmers, sumps for greasing in trade, plumbing, as I said, power wiring, switch gear. I don't think you would have the refrigeration systems, but maybe furnaces, process furnaces. If you have like maybe boilers. If you ask me about specific kind of asset that you're doubting which section to report, maybe I can be more specific, but as far as I named a few like power wiring, plumbing,
So I do have
fans and ducts if it's like process related as well.
So I have an assembly line where I hang parts. So I would have to take the current value or the current asset price of that assembly line and the ovens that I use to cure parts. That's what would go on the form?
No, we are not asking you to report the value. We are asking you to report the acquisition costs and the year of acquisition.
So these items just get reported one time when you acquire them?
Well, if you have more than 100,000 of cost in your business, you are required to report it annually. If you receive business property statement for first time and you don't have more than 100,000 of cost, you report that to us on that statement, and we will decide to keep you on business property statement or retain that assessment for you.
So our startup cost was over $100,000, but after startup, it wasn't 100,000 anymore.
Do you mean that you disposed some assets?
No, when we opened the company, we spent over $100,000, for example, on ovens and powder coating line.
Right.
So do you report that only the year that you acquire it under that year?
You are reporting under the year of acquisition, yes. Let's say you bought the assets 2005. So this year that you're reporting that under 2005. For example, right now, Terry is just putting some examples for you. If you purchased office for the startup, let's say I start my business in 2005 and I'm buying $10,000 office furniture and equipment. Each year that I'm reporting, I'm still keeping that $10,000 office furniture and equipment. Same thing with machinery and equipment. When you started the business, let's say you spent 100,000 for the processing machinery equipment. So you report that 100,000 of acquisition year into the year 2005 each year. And then later on, maybe you added 150,000, let's say on 2018 or 5,000 during 2019. Or you might took part of the 2005 assets, they were not doing the job and you sold them or disposed them. If you adjusted that, then you have to go back and correct that 100,000 that you reported initially. So you have to still report every year and keep your prior year costs reported. And if there are any changes, you have to adjust them.
Thank you so much for the explanation. It's very useful.
You are very
Also-
welcome. Thank you for asking.
Also to that point too, there's a remarks section on the property statement. Please utilize that remarks section if you're making any changes to anything that was previously reported. It really helps us, and it tells a story about things that have changed from year to year. A lot of times we may question why you're removing something or why maybe you're adding something that's an older year acquisition. So if you use these remarks and let us know exactly what happened, we won't have to make that call or make some assumptions about how you're reporting.
Thank you.
Sure. I also want to add that when we were talking about fixtures and structures, if you are reporting any item under fixtures, which is on Schedule B, column 2 fixtures, I would strongly suggest to send us enough description on Schedule D. This is the supplemental Schedule D that comes in that package for you. And here, if you explain to us the nature of what you're reporting on schedule. For example, here, if you added a boiler and you're reporting on column 2 of Schedule B, it's good to have a description for us, because that description will help us to make sure that we are assessing them correctly and classifying them as fixture or structure. You might not be able to distinguish between fixture and the structures very clearly, and that way we can help you with that.
Thank you so much. Very useful information.
Sure.
Thank you. I got a few questions in the chat that were directed at me. Well, not directed at me, but were asked. I do want to let everybody know, if you do want to ask us a specific question and we haven't gotten to it yet, feel free to go to the English breakout room. One of our professional special subject matter experts, Frank, is in there. It's at the bottom of your screen, breakout room, and you feel free to go there, or you can stay here. Jenny Berkeley, forgive me, she said, we sold our building last year in September. Where do I report the disposal of the building on the form?
Terry, do you want me to answer that?
So clarification, so the building, are you still operating a business at the location? Is that what you're saying? So the business operations?
Jenny, feel free to unmute yourself if you to clarify that question.
Hi there. So we sold our business and back in September last year, and then we relocated to a different office, I believe. But when we relocated, we actually leasing our corporate office instead. So I just kind of curious, where would I put the disposal of the building? Is it under the Schedule B or no, the supplemental schedule?
Well, you have to make sure, Terry is just showing that you have to make a note on the front of business profit statement that your business was sold, let's say September, whatever the date is. and relocated on such and such date, and you have to correct the location of the business and write down the new site's address there that she is just filling with an example for you. The building itself, we are not assessing the building, but you can, if you were the owner of the building and you sold it, then you have to report that to our real property section. That's a buy and sell of real property, and our real property appraisers are appraising the transactions related to real property, if I'm understanding your question correctly.
Just to add to that, Jenny, if you did relocate, you may want to check with us to see if where you relocated to is still in Los Angeles County.
Yeah, we're just down the street.
Okay, so really you're just gonna report to us a change in address, actually. So if you were say at 123 XYZ Street, and that's how you got the property statement, just cross it out and indicate what's your new location. And that way we can update our records for this year going forward.
Okay. So on the form, then I don't have to put anything down as far as like how much we sold our building for, or?
Not the building, not the structure or the land. That is, like Eleanor mentioned, it's a separate assessment, and that should be a secured tax bill that you receive for the land and structure building that you receive. I'm not sure if you've been receiving your personal property and fixture assessment on your secured tax bill.
No, I don't think we have.
Okay, so as long as you're getting a separate bill, like Eleanor mentioned, your land and building sale is completely separate from your personal property and fixture assessment. So when you have this property statement, go ahead and indicate we've relocated, we've moved as of November 1st to this new site. Is it still LA County? So your assets are still accessible within LA County for your business operations. And then if you've maybe got rid of some items within the move, then make sure that you're removing or adding to your new additions that you've acquired from the move. That way, and also use the remarks section and tell the story to us.
Okay, so that's most likely be like office furniture or computer, right?
Right. Like if you had 10,000 in office furniture and you got rid of all the old stuff, right? But then when you moved, I bought, 50,000 worth of new office furniture. So you want to go ahead and report that, remove the disposals, and then just make a note of why those costs changed from the prior year acquisitions.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
Thank
can
you.
I add something? Please do not report the old fixture, the fixture in the old locations. Do not include those, even though it's in your book. Please do not report those.
Well, don't report the old fixture.
Unless you took them to the new location.
Right.
No, we left everything there.
Yeah.
Right.
If you abandon it,
go
ahead and
added
remove it.
new fixtures for your business, and now you're reconditioning for the special purposes of the process, then please report to us the fixtures, use the Schedule D to explain to us what kind of fixtures did you add.
Okay, most of our stuff is just more like the PCs, the computers, laptop, nothing really a lot of fixture or furniture.
Do you if you have any kind of special kind of air conditioning or raised flooring for the computer rooms, then those are fixtures.
Okay, got it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I received another question from Anne. Her question is, we just this year received a form when we still have less than $100,000 in assets. Why is this? Anne Verklin, if you want to elaborate, or anybody has a question. So I guess the question is, she has less than 100,000 in assets. Why does she receive a form?
Sometimes we need to make sure that we are assessing you correctly, and Sometimes during the field visit, if the business is closed and we cannot make sure that our retained values are correct, we might select your business to send a business property statement, even if you think that you have less than 100,000 cost of assets to report. Since you received the business property statement, still by law, you are required to file that property statement timely. And if we decide that you don't have to be on business property statement, we will retain your business for next year. However, if there would be any reason for us to believe that you still need to be on business property statement, we will keep you on business property statement. By law, you are required to file that statement, please.
Okay. And then Anne had a follow-up question. How do we account for disposals?
As I was explaining to another taxpayer, for the acquisition year of when you are, let's say, for example, right now, if you bought 150,000 of machinery equipment back in 2018, and let's say you disposed 50,000 of it, and now you have 100,000, please, or 10,000.
Oops, sorry.
Yeah, 100,000. Then please take that 50,000 out of the year of acquisition 2018 and put on the remarks why you are changing it. For example, say disposed obsolete machinery equipment which were acquired in 2018. So that we will be clear on why there is a variance on reported cost.
Great.
And just a note also to add on to what Alanush says, make sure you keep good records of your disposals. Sometimes we may ask for documentation if it's a large amount of disposals. So it's always good, like if you're sending it to a recycle or a scrap dealer, if you sold the asset, just make sure you keep good records of those disposals because we may have a question for you regarding it.
Okay. Anne, I hope that answered your question. She said thank you. We received another question from Jenny Hu. Jenny, her question is there a place we can see all past year unsecured property taxes we paid? Could you help me understand how those taxes are determined? Is there a formula we can see? Thank you.
Well, if you are talking about how do we calculate the business property taxes and how we come up with our assessed values, you can, if you are doing an e-file, on e-file you can see your proper trend sheets. On hard copy as well, if you need to get a copy of prior year's trend factors, you have to contact the office in charge of your location and ask them for a copy of the prior year's trend factors and trend sheets. I'm sorry, trend sheets. Also, if you are you can also contact us using our website. If you go to contact us section of our website and go select the business tab, you can fill out this information, put your assessment number and put your request there. One of my colleagues will shortly contact you back, probably within 48 business hours. So they would be able to help you. Also, if you need to see our current trend factors, they are on business sections based on which kind of equipment you're reporting. For example, if you're reporting commercial equipment, Robert clicked on untrended commercial, but there is another classification under commercial equipment, and it shows the trend factors that we are applying to costs reported. Or for example, on computers, you can go and open the computers and see what are the trend factors that we are applying to the costs reported by the taxpayers for 2022. Was there the remaining of the question?
Ginny, if you would like, you can unmute yourself to elaborate. Her question, is there a place where we can see, hold on, sorry, it went away. Is there a place we can see all past year unsecured property taxes that we paid?
Payment of taxes is under the purview of the treasurer and tax collector. What you would need is the bill numbers, which we could provide you for each of the assessment years if they exist, and then you have to take that information to the tax collector.
Okay, sure. She said that her mic doesn't work at the moment, so thank you. Jeanette Madrid, feel free to unmute yourself if you'd like to ask your question or elaborate, but I'll go ahead and read what she typed. If making a disposal, are you saying I would need to adjust down the year the items was purchased, as well as record the deduction under disposals?
Yes, that would be a very good practice if you are disposing any asset that you acquired prior years. Go to the acquisition year and adjust that number. And on schedule and on remarks, if it's from Schedule A, please put on remarks an explanation of why you are adjusting a priorly reported cost. If it's on Schedule B, means that from structure and fixtures, then you have to it's very good practice to use the Schedule D to describe what kind of disposals were involved, so that it will be clear, and it will help us to make sure that we are assessing you correctly.
Yeah, the Schedule D, 571D is not required, but as Alameda said, it is a good practice. Even if you don't use Schedule D, if you just give us an attachment and an explanation of what was removed, why it was removed, any additional information that you can provide to us is very helpful, even for future possible audit purposes as well.
Okay. All right, Jeanette, I hope that answered your question. If you like, you can unmute yourself to elaborate. Let's see, Catherine Harris, she asked a question. We purchased a packaging machine in 2020, but we were never able to utilize it. The machine is currently in storage. Do I list this as a disposal or wait till we sell it?
So you would actually be reporting that in the year that you acquired it at the actual cost. Just because you're not using it doesn't mean it's not accessible. That equipment, if there's something functionally wrong with it, you may be able to file an appeal and get request some kind of obsolescence adjustment for that equipment. But just because it's idle does not mean that it's not accessible or reportable. So you should still be reporting that asset. And if there's anything if you disagree with that value that we assign to it, then you can definitely file an appeal and get that value reduced. Once you sell it, then you would remove that equipment from your filing from there.
Catherine Harris, if you'd like to elaborate, you can unmute yourself. Or if not, hopefully that answers your question. And
can I add something?
Sure.
If the asset was purchased in 2020 and if you sold it for $500,
Calvin, your mic's going in and out. Perhaps bring it up closer to you.
Okay. So if you purchase your assets in 2020 and you sold it for $500, for example, in 2021, please do not record or report minus 500 in 2021.
Yeah.
Because we look at only look at the fixed asset point of view. So the $500, anything gain or loss, those should be in the income statement. So we're only concentrating on the fixed asset side.
Okay. She said, thank you. Anne Verklin, she also said, I have another question. I do this for several clients. The company stopped receiving a form to fill out, but are just being sent a bill now. Why is this? I was told because it was assessed at less than 200,000.
That's not a true statement. If the company had less than 100,000 of cost of assets reported, we might have deemed it correct to acceptable to put them on a retained assessment. However, if their accountant, I'm assuming she's an accountant or CPA office, if they know that the company has a total cost of 100,000 or more of assets, or they are leasing any equipment, or they have multiple locations in LA County, I suggest filing a business property statement. Even if they didn't receive a statement, they can download a blank statement and use it to report their assets on.
Yes, just to piggyback off of what Eleanor said, yes, you're required to file if you have costs over $100,000, even if we don't send you the form. So definitely, like she said, if you're aware of the cost of the assets at that location and they exceed 100,000, definitely file the statement. Another thing to mention is if you are on that retained assessment annually and you do have a question about that value, that retained value, you can always, again, file an appeal, or you can contact the district office that handles your assessment. And on the annual field canvas, when we go out, they may be able to reevaluate what you have at that location.
Okay. She said, thank you. We're gonna go, I have another question from Craig Ethlers, assistant to Michael Manuel. Feel free, Craig, if you'd like, because you have multiple questions, if you'd like to unmute yourself to kind of elaborate a little bit. I'll read what you said and then kind of maybe you can go from there. I prepare 571Ls for two businesses. One receives a completed form 571L, which only requires an update with current year additions. The other business, which is a 501c3 religious organization, started receiving the form 571L for the first time a couple years ago. Even after filing, that organization receives a blank form without prior year data. Why is that?
If I'm understanding it correctly, one of the companies is an exempt entity, and their property statement is being generated from exemptions unit. So they are still receiving the property statement, and they have to file and they have to ask for exemptions each year. But Frank probably has better idea why the prior reported costs are not printed on their statements. Frank?
And the reason for that is exemptions is typically not on the personal property system. They work all statements manually. Mm-hmm. And they just enter a total sum value to the secured assessment if it's secured. And they're not on the e-file system, which would automatically, when you have a district filing or regular business, what they do is they scan these property statements, they validate them, and they actually allow the computer to enter those values. We double check them, and they appear next year if they're okay. But in exemptions, they don't work off of that system. So that's the reason for that.
Yeah, there are some system limitations. We have an older system, and sometimes it doesn't do the same for different sections that generate those property statements.
He also has a follow-up question. I also prepare a form 571L for a business in San Francisco. San Francisco changed their online filing portal in 2021. Do you have any plans to change the Los Angeles online filing portal? By the way, San Francisco portal is harder to use than the LA portal. Well, thank you.
No.
Oh, you don't want us to change it then. No. We should leave it like it is.
No. I believe Frank Diaz can elaborate a little bit more, but I believe that we are in the midst of trying to update our e-file system. As to when it's going to be ready, I don't exactly know when. Maybe Frank, you have a little bit more details on that?
My understanding is it's not going to be changed. What it's going to be is it's going to be built into our
There you go, yeah.
overall AMP system, which involves all the real estate, but it's going to be, that's down the road.
Great, yeah.
You mean
So right-
migrated?
I'm sorry.
Frank, migrated?
Yes. Okay, not sure why it switched to retain. Thank you. Also, we have not received the 2022 statement in the mail for exempt entity. What do I do about that?
I would suggest contacting our exemptions section and asking them to send you the statement, or you can download a blank form and use that blank form to file your statement, of course, from our website.
The link to the blank forms is in the chat, as well as the link to the 571D form and the contact the assessor link for all that need those links.
I'll share really quickly, and I'll share it again at the end, but on our assessor website, assessor.lacounty.gov, if you go over to property information and you go over to business property statement filing, here you can e-file if you do have the capability to e-file, and it would take you to our e-file portal. Here are also some frequently asked questions that we have, and all of the forms pertaining to the 571L are here. And also, as Terry was saying, the 571L downloadable form, if you're anything like me and your writing, your penmanship is very illegible, you can type everything in here, print and mail. If you have any other questions and you want to talk to somebody, I believe on the form at the top right here, it does say a phone number and of the district and where your office, where your business is located. Please reach out to them. Also on our website, there's the contact us, there's the contact form. On the contact form, you can fill out either a general inquiry or a business inquiry, and go ahead and fill it out to the best of your ability, and somebody will reach out to you in 1 to 3 business days. We also have our directory here that you could email and call, but the contact form is always the easiest way to reach out to us. And where can you get a copy of today's video? Today's video is going to be on our news and information on our webinars and presentations here, but they will also be back under property information, business property statement, videos. It will be in here as well. Also on our YouTube, LACSS or YouTube. We received another question. I leased an equipment within, it's from Lydia. I leased an equipment with an option of purchase at the end of the lease. I purchased the equipment at the end of the lease. What year of acquisition should I use on the business statement? Year or lease or year of purchase? Thank you.
The year of, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, so when you buy out the lease, there's a couple of things. Sometimes you have like a dollar buyout option. Sometimes you have a full market value buyout option. So if you had like a conditional sale dollar buyout type of option, what you should be doing is reporting that asset in the original year that you first leased that equipment at the original cost of that equipment. So say for instance, you had a copier back in 2000, that was $10,000. You're going to report that $10,000 in the 2000 year of acquisition. And that way it's going to get the same amount of trending depreciation to get the assessed value. Now, if you did have a true lease and it was truly a fair market value buyout, then you can report that in the new 2021 acquisition, but only if it's a fair market value buyout. If it's not a fair market value buyout, then you should be reporting the original cost in the original acquisition year. I hope that answers the question.
So,
Thank you.
Lydia. I received another question. Where do we mail the form? Is it on the website?
It depends on where is jurisdiction that assesses your entity. If you go to our website, you will see that we have, if you receive business property statement from us pre-printed, then your office address and contact information is already pre-printed on the top of your business property statement over that section, so you can mail it back to that location. If you didn't and you are filing on a blank property statement, go to our office locations, and if you can search by address there. I'm sorry, that's a better idea. Search by address and make sure which office is in charge of your assessment, and then go to different locations or office locations, and we have all the information, the address, the phone numbers, everything for each of our offices throughout the county.
And one thing to note about this on our office locations, this district is based off of where the location is located, where the office or the business is located. But also note that just because maybe the South El Monte office is closer to you, but it's actually not, the South District or another area might have that. So always it might be best to put the address of the business or the AIN, and that will be for sure tell you where it is located. And also this also works for your home. If you do have a home and you have questions about your home and property taxes on that end, property assessments. Those are all the questions that I have from the chat. Do any of my colleagues have any questions in the chat?
One thing I wanted to add, Robert, to your last comment. It's possible for some businesses to have multiple locations throughout the county. When we have all those companies under the same account, we'll assign a headquarter. So even though one of the locations can be in Long Beach, it's possible that you might need to file in El Monte because that headquarter account is tied to that office. So sometimes, once we assign an account number and all your locations are under the same account number or assessment number, then they'll file to one office location in the county.
I wanted to add one other thing too. If you are eligible to e-file, I highly encourage you to e-file. It's an easy system, as someone mentioned. It's easy to navigate. If you have multi-locations, they all should be within that e-file system. You would just log in under, as Frank mentioned, your headquarter location. If you don't have your statement that usually has a PIN number, there's a forgot PIN feature on the e-file site where you can look up your PIN number using the headquarter company number just by answering a couple of questions. You can always contact our office to see if you are eligible as well.
I got one question in the chat from Bill, and then I saw Courtney raised her hand, so we'll go to Bill's question first, and then I'll go to Courtney. Bill wrote, can last year's 571L be amended? An amount was inadvertently reported on line 2 equipment, which should either have been on line 4 or alternate schedule A. Can I correct that by amending last year or on this year's report?
The last year's assessment are already assessed and on the roll. If you, each year you can file an amended business property statement until May 31st of that year. So, but this year you can correct that, assess whatever that you reported wrong, you can correct it on this year's property statement and use our remarks sections to explain to us why you're correcting or amending reported cost.
Also, you could bring, if you're audited, which a lot of companies are audited every 4th year, you could bring that up during the audit. What I would suggest is the law has a provision that if the taxpayer made a mistake on the filing, we can make an assessment change in that regard. But if we estimate a value and you amend the statement after the fact, then we can't correct it unless there's an actual error by the taxpayer. So what I would suggest is you can contact the district in charge to look at that. We can definitely look at it. And depending on the circumstances, we may be able to correct it if it's truly a taxpayer error in the filing. But other than that, typically an appeal or bring it up during the audit.
Great. Bill, if you like to elaborate, feel free to unmute yourself, or you can ask in the chat. Courtney Blackburn, you have your hand up. Go ahead and
yeah, so I heard you talking about the assessment numbers and being in a group. So we have 18 different locations, and I would say about half of them are all under the same assessment number. And then the rest of them are like each having their own individual number. Is that an issue, or is that okay?
What we'll want to do is try to consolidate them some kind of way. I'm not sure if your companies have different entity names, but there is a way for us to kind of assemble them together, even though they have different company numbers. That way they're all going to be going to the same district office. I would say maybe contact the office that has the bulk of the companies, the locations, and we can work with you and get those all kind of assembled together. So you don't have to send your statements to multiple offices.
Okay. Yeah, okay. I e-file them all now. So how would I know which office? Is it set? Does it say it on the e-filing?
Did you get the actual property statement?
Oh, yeah, I'll look through the mail. I think I probably did.
Yeah, so if you have the actual property statement, you can look at the top of that form as Robert had directed you to, and it should have the district office that handles each individual account.
Okay, awesome, thank you.
Courtney, I have a question for you. You are saying one of the locations have include multiple locations. Is that for leased equipment?
No. They're all separate entities. They all have their own EINs, all have their own names and addresses, but I just noticed that a big bulk of them have the same number.
As long as they're related entities, we can like kind of, like I said, kind of assemble them together. And that's kind of important too when it comes to us thinking about an audit for your business. Because if your books and records are, all together and all the same, we want to make sure that we can audit all those companies in one big audit.
Okay. All right, I will call them. Thank you.
Okay. Any other last minute questions? We are at 1 o'clock. I have one question that I saw nobody ask. What is the deadline? The deadline is tomorrow, but is there an extension, or what about that?
The deadline to file each year is May 7th, 5 p.m. It has to be postmarked by 5 p.m. on May 7th each year to be considered on-time filing. However, if the deadline falls on a holiday or on a weekend, it is automatically extended to the next business day. This year it falls on a Saturday, so it automatically is extended to May 9th. So you have until 5 p.m. on Monday, May 9th to file and to have your filing considered timely filing.
Okay, great. Any last remarks from our subject matter experts that they'd like to ask? I do have a quick little survey that I just launched. Everybody should pop up on there. Not my assessor staff, but everybody else from the public. If you can go ahead and ask, I asked you, how did you hear about today's session? Please, click on there and say, how did you hear about it? If you heard it through email, on social media, or on a newspaper or other. The two people that put other, I kind of want to know what your other is. So if you could put it in the chat, that'd be good. Just because I want to know what other mediums that you received the notice of this. Oh, on the assessor's website. Okay, great. Thank you. That's awesome. So that is it for today. This is our last session. So I appreciate all of you for hopping on. And thank you to our assessor staff that helped us. Again, our website is is always available to you. Oh, okay. I got a coworker who attended a previous webinar. Okay, that's great. It's glad. Anyway, back to what I was saying on our assessor website, we will be posting these videos, these sessions, but we also will have our videos are up there right now. So feel free to go ahead and watch those and ask any questions, call our office, or contact us on the contact form. The contact form is always the best way to reach out to our office. If there's anything else, thank you all and have a good rest of your day.